Ronnie Van Zant wasn't just the unmistakable voice of Lynyrd Skynyrd. He was its heart, its bruised soul, and the poetic force behind its southern swagger. From Jacksonville's sun-baked streets to the sprawling highways of America, Ronnie built more than a band. He crafted an identity. He was the voice of every underdog, who refused to kneel, the symbol of every firebrand, who fought for his place in the world with nothing but a guitar, raw nerve, and a little whiskey in his blood. When he stepped on stage, Ronnie didn't perform. He revealed in songs like Simple Man and Freebird. He wasn't just singing, he was offering a blueprint of his soul. But that soul carried weight, lost doubt, and a darkness that refused to fade decades after the tragic plane crash that ended his life. Ronnie's story is no longer just about fame, it's about truth, and that truth is finally coming to light. Born Ronald Wayne Vincent in Jacksonville, Florida, Ronnie was raised in a neighborhood where ambition meant asphalt and fists solved more arguments than words. He grew up in a crowded home with his brothers, Donnie and Johnny, both of whom would later follow his musical path. Ronnie was the first to dream bigger than the block. He wasn't trained in music, didn't read notes, and couldn't offer textbook chord progressions, but he felt music, and he channeled that feeling into what would become Lynyrd Skynyrd, a band born not in boardrooms or music schools, but in garages, honky-tonks, and sweat-soaked southern bars. By the early 1970s, Skynyrd had exploded into stardom. Their live shows were firestorms of energy, packed with screaming fans, flying beer cans, and extended solos that made guitars weep and howl. Ronnie stood at the center, barefoot and defiant, preaching the gospel of southern rock. But with fame came pressure. The touring never stopped, the drinking escalated, tensions brewed between band members, and at the center of it all was Ronnie, the glue, the leader, and often the burden bearer. Insiders say Ronnie was already exhausted by 1976. His brother, Donnie, was battling personal demons. His marriage was strained. He had nightmares of planes and lost friends. Recall how Ronnie's lyrics grew more haunting. That smell was not just a cautionary tale. It was a confession. He had seen too many bandmates spiral. He was terrified of becoming the next rock and roll tragedy. But instead of slowing down, he pressed forward. Then came October 20th, 1977. Lynyrd Skynyrd boarded a Converse EV to Furrow. After a show in Greenville, South Carolina, the plane was supposed to carry them to Baton Rouge, but it never made it. With 24 passengers on board, including the full band, the plane went down in a forest near Gillsburg, Mississippi. Ronnie died instantly. Guitarist Steve Gaines, backup singer Cassie Gaines, assistant road manager Dean Kilpatrick, and both pilots also perished. Others, including Alan Collins and Gary Rossington, survived, but were left with lifelong injuries. Official reports cited fuel exhaustion, but whispers began almost immediately. Crew members had raised alarms before takeoff. The aircraft had malfunctioned on earlier flights. Some band members were so nervous they considered traveling separately, but management insisted the band stick together. One insider recalled that Ronnie, despite his fears, told a friend before boarding, "If it's my time, it's my time." And then he stepped aboard. In the years that followed, fans mourned. Southern rock lost its prophet. The world lost one of its truest voices. But as tributes poured in, silence followed. Skynyrd's management refused to answer questions. Insurance documents vanished. Critical FAA records were sealed. It wasn't until decades later, through declassified files and survivor testimonies, that the deeper cracks began to show. The plane's fuel system had not been properly inspected. Maintenance logs revealed shortcuts and outdated parts. Eyewitnesses said the pilots were under pressure to meet tight schedules, and perhaps most shockingly, some believe that Ronnie knew the flight was risky, but felt trapped by contracts, by management, and by the expectations he carried. Journalists revisiting the crash have uncovered reports that the band had no real emergency plan. The decision to continue flying, even after signs of mechanical trouble, was made under financial pressure. The record label had invested millions. Cancellations were not an option. Ronnie, torn between duty and dread, chose to lead, and it cost him his life. But this story isn't just about one crash. It's about an industry that pushed too hard, a legend who gave too much, and a truth that stayed buried for decades. Survivors have since come forward, revealing the trauma they carried, the therapy they never received, and the guilt that still wakes them at night. Some even confess they feel Ronnie's presence at every show, every encore. Ronnie Van Zant never wanted to be an icon. He wanted to tell stories, to speak for the working man, to offer comfort, rebellion, and identity through music, and in many ways he did. His legacy lives in every stadium chant of Freebird, in every guitar wail that rises from southern soil, but now it also lives in the truth, the hard, uncomfortable truth of how a man was failed by the very system that celebrated him. Today, as fans revisit the story of Ronnie Van Zant, they find more than nostalgia. They find warnings, they find strength, they find a reminder that legends aren't invincible. They bleed, they fear, they break. Ronnie broke, but even in that, he left behind something unshakable. Not just music, a message: be free, but never forget. Subscribe to Hollywood Untold for more emotional stories behind music legends and the feuds that shaped rock history. Tap the bell to never miss a